afternoon, Malacañang Press Corps. This afternoon, October 4, we have a special press briefing. The Philippines is hosting the first ministerial level conference on the Women, Peace and Security Agenda. It is called the International Conference of Women, Peace and Security, or the ICWPS. This conference will be a platform to address the UN Security Council Resolution 1325, which is a global commitment to ensuring that women and girls are more systematically and sustainably integrated into peace and security. President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. remains committed to promoting gender equality and women's empowerment, especially in all matters of peace and security. And to give us a deeper understanding about the importance of this conference to the Philippines and to the world, we are joined by an esteemed panel of guests consisting of heads of agencies. Here with us today are Secretary Enrique A. Manalo of the Department of Foreign Affairs, Secretary Amena F. Pangandaman of the Department of Budget and Management, Secretary Carlito G. Galvez Jr. of the Office of the Presidential Advisor on Peace, Reconciliation, and Unity, Chairperson Ermelita V. Valdeavilla of the Philippine Commission on Women, and Ms. Amina Rasul Bernardo, President of the Philippine Center for Islam and Democracy. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Let's begin with the opening statement, starting with Secretary Manalo.
Thank you. Good afternoon. It is my distinct honor to join my colleagues in government and our CSO partner, PCID, to officially launch the Philippine hosting of the International Conference on Women, Peace and Security. The conference is an international stock-taking, shaping new consensus on the implementation of the Women, Peace and Security Agenda ahead of the 25th anniversary of the UN Security Council Resolution 1325 in 2025. From October 28 to 30 this year, we will be joined in Manila by representatives from more than 54 countries from Africa, Latin America, Europe, the Middle East, South Asia, and Asia Pacific, including 25 ministers, vice ministers, and other senior officials in discussions which aims to illuminate the role of interregional multi-stakeholder networks for exchanging experiences, best practices, and challenges related to the meaningful engagement of women in peace building. Our hosting of the conference reflects our commitment to the Women, Peace and Security Agenda, which is not only evident in our national policies, but also extends beyond our borders, finding resonance in our engagements with the United Nations, ASEAN, and other international organizations. During the Philippine chairmanship of ASEAN in 2017, ASEAN leaders issued a groundbreaking statement prioritizing the needs and rights of women in conflict-affected areas. The establishment of the ASEAN Women for Peace Registry in 2018 in Cebu City further exemplified our commitment to a gendered approach to peace and conflict in the region. Globally, the Philippines has been unwavering in our commitment to UN peacekeeping operations. With a proud tradition of 60 years and over 14,000 Filipino peacekeepers, our commitment includes increasing deployments of skilled female peacekeepers, recognizing their vital role in the success of these operations. The Philippines' long-standing comprehensive engagement on women's rights also includes our role in spearheading biennial UN General Assembly resolutions addressing violence against women, migrant workers, and trafficking in women and girls, especially in situations of armed conflict, and in actively championing gender equality and women's empowerment in annual UN Commission on the Status of Women meetings. In the CSW, or Commission on the Status of Women, the Philippines contributed to historic outcomes, such as on the elimination of violence and discrimination against women. The Philippines chaired the 68th session of the UN Commission on the Status of Women in March this year, with the permanent representative in New York, Ambassador Antonio Lagdameo, presiding over the 3-week conference, and Secretary Amina Pangandaman leading the Philippine delegation. The International Conference on Women, Peace and Security will not only be a platform for sharing insights and best practices on this important issue, it will also be a powerful demonstration of our leadership in harnessing collective commitment to advancing the WPS agenda worldwide. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Secretary Manalo. Next, we have Secretary Pangandaman.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'd just like to note that when I saw our in the television, this is pure. There's pure gender balance. There's 4 women out of 2. So I'm very happy. To the Department of Foreign Affairs Secretary Enrique Manalo, Presidential Advisor on Peace, Reconciliation, and Unity Secretary Carlito Galvez, Philippine Commission on Women Chairperson Ermelita, Democracy President Ma'am Amina Rasul Bernardo, fellow public servants, friends from the media, ladies and gentlemen, good day to all of you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I am honored to be here today as a recent recipient. Recognizes my contributions to promoting peace and achieving just and lasting peace in the Philippines. And I've always believed that this is only possible with a meaningful participation of women. In fact, the United Nations World Bank study, Pathways for Peace, Inclusive Approaches to Prevent Violent Conflict, highlights the empowering women and ensuring their meaningful participation and decision-making processes is essential for sustainable peace. To this end, we have made significant strides in establishing frameworks to support these goals. The Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women, CEDAW, adopted in 1979, set the stage for advancing women's rights globally. This was followed by the Beijing Platform for Action in 1995, which provided a comprehensive policy agenda for achieving gender equality and women's empowerment. Additionally, United Nations Security Council Resolution 1325, adopted in 2000, recognized the necessity of women's participation in peace processes. The adoption of the Sustainable Goals in 2015, particularly Goal 5, further reinforced this commitment. Recognizing this, we can take pride in the fact that 103 countries have developed their respective national action plans on women, peace, and security, demonstrating a collective acknowledgement of the importance of gender-responsive strategies in conflict prevention. And the Philippines stand out as a pioneer, being the first Asian country to adopt NAP-WPS in 2010. As a pioneer in the implementation of NAP-WPS, the upcoming International Conference on Women, Peace, and Security represents a significant milestone. It offers us a platform to share our best practices, learn from each other's experiences, and strengthen our collective resolve to integrate gender perspectives into all aspects of peace and security as we work together towards a bagong Pilipinas. This conference is not just an opportunity for a dialogue. It is a call to action for all of us to reaffirm our commitment to gender equality and sustainable peace. Nais po naming makasama kayong lahat sa layunin na ito. Maraming salamat po.
Maraming salamat, Secretary Pangandaman. Next, we have Secretary Galvez.
To my fellow cabinet members, Madam Amina, to our friends and media, fellow public servants, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, isang maganda at mapayapang araw po sa ating lahat. Thank you for joining us today sa present. Over the years, the Philippines have proudly been at the forefront of advancing gender equality. We were the first Asian country to adopt the National Action Plan on Women, Peace, and Security, or the NAP-WPS, which is now on its 4th generation. As a result, Filipino women have held key leadership positions in several national government agencies, peace-building bodies, and mechanisms, as well as civil society organizations. 10 years ago, it was Professor Miriam Coronel Ferrer who signed the comprehensive agreement on the Bangsamoro with Moro Islamic Liberation Front as the Philippine government chief negotiator. And now we have Secretary Amina Pangandaman as our secretary that really implementing the agreements through the IGRB. This was a major milestone in the history of peace building, as Professor Coronel Ferrer was the first woman who signed the major peace deal that was recognized across the globe. We are therefore honored to host this first ministerial level conference on the Women, Peace and Security agenda in the country to be held within this month. By bringing peace together, women leaders and peace builders and peace advocates from across the globe, this conference aims to highlight the significant role of women and their meaningful contribution to achieving a just and lasting peace for humanity, especially in areas that are dealing with armed conflict. Let us remember that the comprehensive Philippine peace process aligns with the aspiration of the UN Council Resolution on Women, Peace and Security, particularly Resolution 1325 and 1820, which paved the way of crafting the WPS. This action plan emphasizes a complex, sensitive, and peace-promoting, whole-of-society and empowering approach that is geared toward peace enforcement, peacemaking, and most importantly, the peace-building concepts. This includes a wide range of initiatives that will be implemented to address the root causes of armed conflict and prevent its resurgence. Once again, thank you for everyone for joining us today, and I look forward to answering your questions regarding the upcoming event.
Thank you, Secretary Galvez. Next, we have Chairperson Valia Villa.
Esteemed members of the panel, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. The agenda of women, peace, and security has always been associated with the context of violence, aggression, and conflict. But since 2007, debates within the United Nations Security Council have consistently pointed out that climate change is a powerful accelerator of threats to peace, security, and women's well-being. This is a different form of aggression, where our adversary is neither willing nor able to give in, or sit down and negotiate. According to the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, in a global population of nearly 8 billion people, 3.5 billion live in climate hotspots. Thus, the fourth thematic discussion of our international conference will tackle the intersections of WPS and climate security and how women's movements and leadership influence the responses to these intersectional challenges. According to UNDP, climate security refers to the impacts of the climate crisis on peace and security, especially in fragile and conflict-affected areas. There are evidences that climate-induced disasters escalate human struggle for survival, which makes it impossible to achieve sustainable peace. It complicates conflict dynamics, and it exacerbates inequalities. For example, the displacement and relocation of communities in Mindanao due to climate disasters aggravated land and resource competition among indigenous groups. Women were disproportionately affected as climate-induced challenges to food production intensified their economic vulnerabilities. Their domestic functions left them with shorter work hours and smaller income, with no savings to rely on in times of crisis. Yet, women comprise a significant resource that has a compelling potential to unlock unexplored solutions to peace, security, and climate challenges. The Philippines' approach to women, peace, climate, and security is framed around gender mainstreaming strategy as mandated under the Magna Carta of Women. All government agencies in this sector are implementing gender mainstreaming programs that enable them to do 5 strategic actions. First, establish responsive policy and legal frameworks. Second, build the gender capacity of officials, personnel, partners, and women clientele. Third, strengthen gender database and institutional mechanisms for gender planning, budgeting, implementing, and monitoring. And fourth, expand programs and services for women who are affected by the intersecting challenges. The whole of government's mainstreaming approach creates an enabling environment that fosters leadership and participation of women in this sector. Our strategy is recognized as one of the strongest in the world because of our concepts, which are homegrown and organic. We continue to improve in our work because we have a government presently under the leadership of President Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos that governs with a vision for gender equality and the heart for women's empowerment. The Philippines' recent selection as host to the board of the Loss and Damage Fund positions the country at the forefront of addressing climate change and also championing the women climate, peace, and security agenda. The engine of our gender mainstreaming is the GOD budget. For 3 decades, the Philippines has been implementing gender-responsive budgeting in 2 forms, one for locally sourced funds and another for foreign aid. The first is embedded in the Annual General Appropriations Act, which mandates that at least 5% of the government's budget be allocated to women and gender-related concerns. And the second is through the Women in Development and Nation Building Act, thanks to the lead, the principal author, Senator Santanina Rasul, which requires the use of 5 to 30% of official development assistance for gender mainstreaming. Both of these have been institutionalized under the Magna Carta of Women and are being leveraged to support initiatives to advance women's agenda on climate, security, and peace. We can say that our 2 GOD budgets can be one of the most sophisticated in the world because they are sustainable, institutionalized, supported by tested processes, and they direct expenditures to priority gender targets. More importantly, they are collectively managed and monitored by 8 high-level oversight entities, namely the DBM, NEDA, Commission on Audit, which is a gold awardee on gender mainstreaming, the ILG, PCW, Congress, Senate, and the Commission on Human Rights, which is the mandated ombuds machinery for gender equality under the Magna Carta of Women. Last year, the GOD budget allocations of national government agencies reached 807 billion pesos from the government side and $1.178 million from foreign assistance. This represents 23% and 16% respectively, even if the law mandates only a minimum of 5%. And I would like to share with you the amount spent last year for the implementation of the NAP Women, Peace, and Security. Last year, a total of 173.2 million pesos were allocated for the implementation of the National Action Plan on Women, Peace, and Security. Ladies and gentlemen, it is still a long journey. And in this international conference, we will strive to get as much learning and establish as many networks as possible so that we can strengthen our work further. Our challenges have no borders, but our commitment and determination have no boundaries. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chairperson Valdia Villa. And next we have Ms. Rasul Bernardo.
Thank you, Daphne. I represent, I'm one of the representatives of civil society in the organizing of this very crucial international conference. And for that, on behalf of civil society, I really would like to thank our government, led by the Department of Foreign Affairs, by the Department of Budget and Management, by the Office of the Presidential Advisor on Peace, Reconciliation, and Unity, and the Philippine Commission on Women, for engaging, continuously engaging with civil society. Our friends in the media, as you know very well, there are not that many countries in the world where you have cordial relationships with civil society and government when you're talking about countries that have conflict. And for that, we, civil society in the Philippines, are extremely grateful to our government for keeping that democratic space open for civil society engagement with government. The Women, Peace and Security agenda is really more relevant today than it has ever been. One has only to look at what's going on in the Middle East, in Gaza, now expanding towards Lebanon, the involvement of Iran, looking at Ukraine, looking at what's happening in Africa. And as conflicts erupt and humanitarian emergencies unfold, the role of women in peace building and security is critical. Women are disproportionately affected by violence, displacement, and instability, yet we are also powerful agents of change, advocating for peace, justice, and inclusive governance. The WPS agenda, established by UN Security Resolution 1325, celebrating its 24th anniversary, calls for women's full inclusion in peace processes and the protection of their rights, in conflict settings, calls for the engagement of women in what we now see as non-traditional security threats. And the Philippines has led in this. But in this conference, we are going to see that we need to level up. And I think we are going to see how the Philippines is leading the way in the leveling up of the implementation of the National Action Plan for Women, Peace and Security. Here in the Philippines, we understand the importance of the WPS agenda. We only have to look at what's happening in Muslim Mindanao. Women have played a significant role in the peace negotiations, even at the community level. Women who are unseen have been part of the peace process. Women leaders have helped shape the historic agreements between the government and the Moro Islamic Liberation Front, and before that, with the Moro National Liberation Front. Their contributions were not only essential in building trust, but also in ensuring that the peace agreement addressed issues such as displacement, human rights, socio-economic developments, areas that are often overlooked in traditional security dialogues. We have much to share, and in this international conference, we hope that we will have the platform to be able to share with colleagues who are coming from other conflict-influenced or conflict-affected areas. And we are going to have a special forum in this conference that precisely will help do that. It will look at the possibility of establishing a platform for collaboration between Southeast Asia or Asia and the Middle East. We could learn from our colleagues in the Middle East on how to deal with day-to-day instances of violent extremism or terrorism. We don't have that experience. We, on the other hand, with our successes in engagement in the peace process, in capacity building, we have much to share with our colleagues in the Middle East and North Africa and beyond. And at times when conflicts in the Middle East and Europe rage, and the Philippines stands as a model for how inclusive peace processes can lead to more durable outcomes, we have high hopes that this international conference on women, peace, and security will be an important platform to bring people together and to allow us to converge on behalf of peace and security for our community as well as for the world. So maraming salamat po sa inyong lahat.
Thank you, Ms. Rasul Bernardo. And now we have some time for questions, and I ask the Malacañang Press Corps to, in the interest of time management, because we're running late, to please focus your questions on the upcoming International Conference on Women, Peace and Security. Any questions? Okay, we start with Pia Gutierrez, ABS-CBN.
Anyone can answer po. In the Philippines and in other countries worldwide, what challenges do you see that continue to keep women from participating in peace building and security efforts, and how do you see the conference addressing these challenges po?
Anyone?
I can take it if you want. I think we still suffer from a very macho-dominated society. In fact, if you look at what's going on in the Middle East, for instance, the absence of women at the peace table is very obvious. And we cannot help but wonder if, like the Philippine peace process, they had women at the negotiating table, how much different the process would have been, how much more inclusive, and how much more, in a way, forgiving. So we have to contend with a very traditional concept of security still, and a very traditional concept of negotiations. And I think at this conference, we can help change that and bring it back to the original concept of the Women, Peace and Security agenda, where women's participation is seen as crucial to the sustainability of peace processes and agreements.
Sec Manalo?
Perhaps to address your question, I could give an idea of some of the expected outcomes of this conference. And these would basically be in the form of, well, first, the major outcome would be a declaration. And this Manila, we'll call it the Manila Declaration, it's still being negotiated now in New York. And it is involving all the member states of the UN. What we expect is that the declaration will include some key elements. Some of these are affirming commitments to gender equality and women's participation, especially in peacekeeping and peace-building activities. And these are in fact called for in UNSCR 1325. There will also be, we expect, a call for urgent action to address sexual and gender-based violence, especially during armed conflict, and also promoting women's leadership in peace processes around the world. The conference will also reaffirm the commitment of all states to the WPS agenda, and we also expect, arising from this meeting and even during the meeting, more collaboration between government and civil society and international organizations, and also targeting actions or making more specific targets to address gender inequality in conflict, during times of conflict, and also in times of peace building. Thank you.
Thank you. Any more questions? Okay, we have Celerina Monte of NHK.
Thank you po. Speaking of women's role, I'm wondering, sorry if I have to inject the West Philippines issue. I'm wondering if there could be a place for women to have their role to address or somehow lessen the tension in the South China Sea. Like in the negotiation or whatever capacity they could contribute.
Well, one of our negotiators is Deputy Secretary Des Lasso. So
Do you think asking more women to help could somehow add to like the stance of the Philippines regarding the issue on the West Philippines?
well, why not? In fact, there is no gender distinction. There are many women involved in addressing this issue in our government.
Thank you. Any more questions? Okay, Raquel Bayan, Radyo Pilipinas.
Good afternoon, Sec. I know you mentioned earlier that this is significant yung pag-host po natin, but for an ordinary Filipino or Filipino for that matter, how would this conference directly affect them or benefit them? Meron po ba tayong mga program na, like for example, after natin mag-exchange nitong experiences, best practice, may mga program po ba tayo na inaasahan na may be funded through the conference? Di ipatutupad po dito sa Pilipinas. Thank you.
Well, funding, just to provide context, siguro, I'd like to share that for the past, say, 10 years, we have provided such a big amount for our normalization, decommissioning, and all our socio-economic programs, especially in the area of Mindanao. To date, it's already almost 9 billion pesos of funding that the government has provided. And this is on top of whatever projects that we provide in terms of infrastructure development and programs that have been provided by our development partners in terms of technical assistance and official development assistance. And of course, with the BARM that we have now, we have been providing their budget. In fact, for next year, the black grant for BARM will increase to up to 94.1 billion pesos. So it's a 17% increase from when they started the BARM government. So yes, in fact, one of the thematic session in the conference is the thematic discussion number 3, which I will handle together with my counterparts. It is investing in impact, financing strategies on women, peace, and security initiatives. Basically, we want to look at some areas where we can invest more on women, peace, and security, and find ways to explore innovative financing solutions to enhance our WPS investments.
Go ahead, Secretary.
Yung sinasabi nga natin, isa rin sa mga challenge natin. In fact, isanama namin sa thematic sessions namin yung not WPS implementation at saka yung localization. Normally, pagka tayo high level yung ating conference, ano ba ang impact nito sa ground? Kaya nga yung session number 1 will answer those questions kasi on how to localize yung implementation natin, importante yun. Dahil kasi unang-una sa lahat ng mga nangyayari ngayon at emerging climate change, very vulnerable yung women. But the good thing is that even the international community is aware of that. In fact, one of good thing that we have seen right now is the tripartite agreement between JICA, OICA, and also USAID, which is basically concentrating on women health, maternity. Kaya maganda yung nagiging natin yung awareness ng even international community. It gave us that leverage na nakita natin yung vulnerability natin, especially sa BARM, yung mga conflict affected areas, ay nabibigyan ng attention. So that is 1.6 billion na talagang magandang package joined by the 3 countries. And we are very happy that those has greater implications basically on tinatawag natin yung mortality on birth, and also yung nakita natin yung World Bank survey na 51% lang yung potential ng isang tao pagka lumaki siya ng 18 years old. Ito yung from womb to 3 years old na nakikita natin, binigyan ng attention ng international community. So yung vulnerabilities ng women and also yung mga children is being given importance because of this tinatawag nating awareness on the NAP-WPS.
Okay, thank you. JP Soriano, GMA.
Hi, Secretary. Sir, in times of war and in conflict, it's women and children who are most vulnerable. Speaking of women and children, we have a lot of Filipino women in the Middle East. What specific measures is the DFA and the Philippine government is planning now as tensions in that area is still increasing? Specifically, what preparations are we doing for a potential escalation of violence in Israel and in Iran?
Well, I can answer that we already have plans in place in various countries that might be affected, including Lebanon. And our embassy, in coordination with all our other attachés, especially our own attachés in DFA, and of course the DMW, have already are working very hard to institute their plan and trying to get arrangements ready for the Filipinos in the area in case they have to evacuate or be repatriated.
Are all Filipinos in southern Lebanon accounted for? Have we had the chance to?
Well, I can't comment exactly on what the situation, but they have already identified where they are, and they've already contacted those whom they can contact in southern Lebanon. But I understand the bulk of our Filipino population in Lebanon is in Beirut. But nevertheless, the embassy is also in direct contact with the Filipino community in Beirut, and as well as in southern Lebanon.
Still alert level 3, no?
At the moment, it's alert level 3, but we are operating as if it's level 4.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Pia Gutierrez again, ABS-CBN.
It has been mentioned po in your opening statements that the women in the Philippines have played very crucial roles, especially in the peace process in the Bangsamoro. How do you see the Philippines leading the way and empowering women in other parts of the world, particularly those in the more traditional and macho societies, to get more involved in peace building and security, or at least the Philippines leading the way in opening the doors to get more women a seat at the table?
May I take that, sir? The Philippines has really been a beacon in this region. In fact, the fact that ASEAN has an ASEAN Women for Peace Registry, which is housed in the ASEAN Institute for Peace and Reconciliation, the fact that exists is thanks to the Philippines, specifically the leadership of the Department of Foreign Affairs. And this group is I guess, the first regionally organized group that allows women who are peace builders, who are experts in WPS, to be able to help when they are needed. But of course, they have to be requested. In other areas as well, the Philippines has led gender-based budget management, for instance. But that's why Secretary Manalo, Secretary Galvez, and Secretary Pandaman, and Chair, I am a bit surprised that the Philippines fell down 40 ranks in the WPS index of last year. And I'm thinking that perhaps with this conference, this is going to push us back to reclaiming the loss in standing as far as WPS is concerned. Because if you're talking about areas of conflict, there can be, I think, no government outside of the Philippines that really has been engaged in making sure that women are involved. So I'm thinking it might be in the non-traditional aspects of security threats where there may be some weaknesses. Thank you.
Oh, could I just add to that and just say that this is the first conference, I understand, ever to be held on this particular topic, and I think that that's already an indication of the importance the Philippines attaches to it, and the fact that we have gotten a very good response from our invitations to other countries means they also recognize the importance of this. So this will be the first time ever since the adoption of the UN Security Council Resolution 1325 that a conference has actually been held on this particular topic, and to examine not only the implementation of the Security Council resolution, but how we can move things forward. And in fact, not only will we have the 4 main sessions, but even during the conference, we will have quite a number of side events to be hosted by civil society, also government agencies, even some embassies here. They will address, at least address practically as many issues as possible regarding the role of women in peace and security. So, for example, they will be discussing even health and peace, empowering women in building peace resilience, and also even using women as frontline negotiators, etc. So there'll be over 20 of these, and we may even have more. So we will be really looking at this issue in a very comprehensive way and identify how we can make or adopt more targeted action in all of these areas.
Okay. Go ahead.
Last Monday, we have awarded two great women that really contributed to the peace and security of our country. Number one is Madam Miriam Cornell, and also Secretary Amina Pangandaman. And you have seen yung tanong mo kanina na paano natin yung mga ating women peace and security natin, paano natin maipopagate sa other countries. In fact, we are arranging ni Madam Cornell because he is being tapped by many global associations. And I think Ma'am Amina has also some many calls that na talagang to really propagate yung ating peace process, especially the unique success of the Bangsamoro. In fact, magkakaroon ng mga tinatawag kaming mga inter-country international dialogue, even yung Colombia. We have now some sort of a bilateral arrangement, and I believe the next na magiging natin including yung nangyayaring conflict din sa other ASEAN countries natin. I think we will have an arrangement with Thailand and maybe Myanmar, which basically our women are greatly involved in the consultations and in negotiations.
Okay.
Excuse me.
Go ahead.
In terms of other avenues where we can bring forward the results of this conference, I am looking at the process for the Beijing Platform for Action, which is celebrating its 30th anniversary, which is going to happen at the regional level in November. And I have, from experience, I have found out that women are very comfortable with informal processes, informal discussions, informal negotiations. And these processes bring about ideas that will not come out in a formal setting. So we are in the position to influence part of the agenda of the conference that's going to happen in November. Initiatives on resilient livelihood, because remember, I'm focusing on climate security. And since our line is already established and we have connections with National Women's Machinery Ministers, heads of National Machineries for Women, we can start discussions on forging out agenda, colleagues, ASEAN countries, which might also lessen tension between the Philippines and China, because China is very much part of the process. And if this is an informal discussion, then it will not be probably bound by diplomatic rules and protocols.
Okay. Thank you very much. Before we end this press conference, we have closing remarks from Secretary Pangandaman.
I would like to first thank my fellow panelists this afternoon for their unwavering dedication, not only for the conference.
At niyo pong natunghayan ang isang press briefing mula sa Malacañang tungkol sa